Tell me while I'm talking. So let's say this. The Bible says that Jesus was at the Last Supper. Okay, Jesus was at the Last Supper. And he was talking to his disciples. This was after he had risen from the grave. Correct, Steve?
Correct.
And he says to his disciples, he says, where I go, you may not go just yet. He said, but where I go to prepare a place for you. He goes, for in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not true, he would have told me so. So with that being said, that he's going to prepare a place for me, you, and everyone in this world, Steve, who chooses to choose him and love him and honor him. He prepares a place for us that when we die, that we can go with him in heaven and have our own mansion. Our own mansion. But you know what I realized, Steve? If he's going to build us a mansion that we can live in, let me ask you a question. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get to heaven? Besides seeing everybody and greeting everybody, because you know that's going to happen. But what's the one thing that we'll be doing in heaven that the angels are doing right now?
Worship and praising God.
So technically, will we even need our own mansion to live in if we're just going to be praising, worshiping God all day?
Yeah, we can do that too.
We can what?
We can do that. We can do that too.
Yes, but if we're going to do nothing but worship and praising God, then why would we need a mansion? See what I'm saying? Because if we're going to be out of our mansions worshiping God all day, we don't sleep. So what's the mansion for?
God says we need rest.
We will need rest in heaven?
Yeah.
I didn't know we would need rest. I thought heaven was a place you never sleep or slumber.
Right. Well, but put it this way, why would you need a mansion then?
That's what I'm trying to get at. I don't know. That's one thing I would like to ask God. Why do we need a mansion? Because if you think about it, there's parts in the Bible where it says heaven's a place where you slumber nor sleep, because God never slumbers or sleeps. Therefore, if we're going to be worshiping God all day, I got to talk to like somebody. I asked Dr. Scott maybe, see what he says, but why would we need a mansion if we don't sleep up there or eat? What's the point of having a mansion?
Well, we do eat.
In heaven? Oh yeah, we do at the very Last Supper. At the marriage supper of the Lamb. Once we get done with that, there's no more eating over there. But that's gonna be that's a place that is gonna be one of the biggest meals you'll ever eat.
The best meal.
Oh, you think you can eat now, Steve? Wait till you eat from that place. Went to the Last Supper. Oh man, you'll eat so much, Steve, you won't even be able to eat nothing after that. And you think you eat a lot now? There's going to be every single country's going to have a piece of their food there.
That's something too. That one day is like 1,000 years in heaven.
Oh, I know. Just imagine if you spent 1,000 years at Golden Corral.
And guess what?
What?
I'd still be skinny.
That's right. You'll be able to eat everything in the world and not gain a single pound. But we're going to have every piece of food from every country in the world on that table there that day.
Amen.
I want to know how long that table is going to be. Because that's got to be a huge table to have every single country's food on there. And their drinks.
Well, just think it goes around the world, put it that way.
It's going to be a huge table in heaven when we get to the marriage supper.
The Asian probably goes around maybe, can you imagine going around the world maybe 20, 30 times?
Oh, I know. So here's a question. We're waiting for the Last Supper for Jesus to take us home, right?
Right.
So the people like, say, my grandmother or her dad, my wife's dad, Larry, that's already dead, are they still waiting for the Last Supper, or has their Last Supper already came?
They're waiting for the Last Supper.
Okay, I want to make sure, because I do believe the Bible does say that everyone will join in the Last Supper. So I just want to make sure, because I wasn't entirely for sure if they wait or they have one or something. I don't know. So I just wanted to make that clear and let my listeners know a little bit about what I was thinking. It's food for thought, right, Steve?
Yeah, like you heard someone died and came back from heaven and gave it a testimony.
I've seen people who's died. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, he literally was dead for 6 days.
Well, he wasn't
His
dead.
spirit actually was out of his
I don't
body,
think-
though. That's what I'm saying. His spirit left his body and went to heaven.
Yeah, his body, his spirit did go to heaven. I remember I had a vision, a dream, and I told him the vision and dream, and he exactly saw the exact same thing.
Oh, I know. So, see, when your spirit leaves the body, technically the body is still breathing from a machine, but your spirit is left. Once your spirit leaves the body, you're technically dead. Technically, but we're not going to get into what is what or what
I
not.
remember he went to heaven.
Yes.
There was a hill, and Jesus said, "See this house over the hill, this mansion is for you." Yeah, and he walked a little further, and he went down to like the river or the lake of life, and he drank out of it. And as soon as he drank out of it, he came right back to life.
No. See,
again.
Dan said two things. He says, because he was talking to us too. He goes, you know what, guys? He goes, when I ran down that hill, he goes, I did not wheeze or nothing. He says, I ran like I was young again. He says that when I got to that river and I was looking into it to drink out of it, it was clear as day. You could see down to, if there was a bottom, he said you would see the bottom of this lake.
Yeah.
He says, but it was so clear you could see it. He says, but it was never ending. He says there was no bottom.
Right, and they said when he drank the water, it was real sweet.
Yeah, he did. He said it was real sweet, and then he came to. But he said he ran down that hill like he was young again.
And I saw that. Like, God gave me a vision when he was going through, showing me what he's doing in heaven. And he wakes up and tells me, and I was telling him at the same time.
Now
I asked him, did your body, did you visit Jesus in heaven?
Yeah. Now I can testify of heaven myself. I've never once been to heaven, and I want to go there anytime soon. Unless God wants me to specifically. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, it's because there's a beep going on. If God wants to show me something and send me to heaven for a reason, that's a different story. But I don't want to go there anytime soon. But I can still testify of heaven because I was in Dan's room one day, and we were just talking about this incident that Dan went through. He was explaining to me in more detail about how he ran down the hill. He ran like he was young and how clear the river was. And he was just explaining these things. And all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, I lost all of my surroundings. All of them. I didn't. At first, I was thinking to myself, where am I at? And then it came clear to me.
Yeah.
Okay. It was doing something on
breaking
Skype.
up.
I'm here. You can hear me, right?
There we go.
Can you
You're
hear me?
breaking up.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so it came clear to me that as I was coming to into this vision I was having, it wasn't like I was dead or nothing. It was just a vision, and there's this river. First off, there's a chair, and at the seat of the chair where the where you sit down, there's that little wood piece around the front and sides of the chair, not the top or the bottom, but just the thin sides. A river came out of that red big ornate chair on a big pedestal. A river came out of that chair, flowed down into like a waterfall, and then flowed into one straight line river. And it kept doing that. It kept going just like that the whole time. And I looked into this river, and it was crystal clear. Crystal.
Amen.
To where if you if there was a bottom to this river, you'd see it. And I'm sitting here, I'm sitting on the floor in Dan's room, but I'm looking down at this river. I have tears coming down my face. I'm literally, I'm not bawling my eyes out, but I'm crying to a degree. And I came to because Dan kept saying, "Andrew, you okay? Andrew, you okay?" Finally, when I came to, I said, "Dan, you will not believe this." And I had tears coming down my face. I wasn't sobbing, but I'm about to cry right now for it. Whew.
I know I was there, but I think I walked in.
No, you weren't there because this is when we were in Dan's room and we were having a moment together talking with Dan.
I walked in on it.
Not at that moment. I know for a fact that didn't happen.
I think I walked after that moment.
Well, you came by the house. Yes, I remember that part. You came by the house to pick us up for stuff. But as I'm talking to Dan, I go, Dan, you won't believe this. And Dan's looking at me. He goes, what? I said, my surroundings just disappeared or vanished on me. And then when I finally realized what's going on, I saw this big red ornate chair. Really huge chair. I mean, it was so decorative, Steve. It had all these it's like, you ever seen how these people do ice sculptures? Or they carve these really decorative furniture pieces, and it's got all these...
You say the chair was made for a king?
Oh, yeah. It had all these little intricate curves, and all this stuff was so intricate, and it was bright red. And that river flowed down to a waterfall, then down into a straight river. And I'm looking at this thing, and I said, Dan, I saw this chair. I explained to him about the river coming from it. And I explained to him how clear the river was. I said, Dad, if you could look at this river, if you could see, if there was a bottom, you'd be able to see the bottom of that river. I said, but there's no bottom. None. And I'm right now thinking about it as I'm talking about it. I'm actually seeing that river again, how clear it was. And Dan goes, you know what, Andrew? He goes, you just saw a piece of heaven. He goes, because that river was just as clear as mine was when I went to heaven. He says, God's shown you a piece of what I went through. And I had tears coming down my face. I was so happy about it. I couldn't believe my eyes that God showed me something like that.
I forgot how clear it was. I remember the sun hitting it.
I don't have, well, he might have, but I've never seen the sun hitting mine.
Right.
But Dan's might have had the sun, but mine was so clear I could see right straight through it.
Right.
It was the most beautiful river I've ever seen.
When the sun hits the river on the top or the lake, it kind of blinds you. But you can see it, how blue it is.
Oh, I know. You know why the river and lakes are blue, right?
Go ahead.
Because when the sky and stuff, and there's no clouds in the sky, the river looks bluish because it's a mirrored image of the sky. God created a big giant mirror to mirror the sky. That's why it's blue. If you take a piece of that river and you put it into a glass that you can see through and hold it up, it's clear. But since it mirrors the sky, it turns blue.
Yeah, what it looks like. When you turn around, you put that glass of water on the river or any water, and you let it sit there, and you put light through it. Guess what it looks like?
What?
A rainbow.
Yeah, I know.
And what does a rainbow represent?
A rainbow represents that God will never destroy the earth through a flood.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, that's what one of the promises that God gave to Noah after the dove with the olive branch came by. God put a rainbow into the sky and told Noah, he goes, this is my promise to all mankind that I will not destroy the earth through a flood anymore.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, Steve, no matter how many floods we've had, so many floods in Michigan that there was one time that me and my buddy Mel, the harmonica guy, remember him?
Yeah.
We were in his car once, and my cell phone was ruined after this. We got into his car because we knew during the time when we went to the, was it the Olin Jacks, I think it was? It was the Steelwell. When they were in the Steelwell, we were doing the music with the old folks. I used to play the piano with them all the time. And so when we went to the Steelwell, and we knew it was raining, but we didn't know how bad it rained. It rained so bad that day that when we were driving down the road, the car was actually floating in water.
Wow.
It was bobbing up and down like a boat. It was floating. And his car got totaled that day. He had a nice car, but it got ruined because of all that flooding. Because back in the day in the 80s and 90s, because his car was from like the 80s, I think it was, he kept really good shape of his car. And back then, they didn't have all the stuff they have now for cars to where the bottom of their cars in the 80s and 90s were all opened up at the bottom. So any bit of water, and you know this, Steve, any bit of water that splashed underneath would stall your car